Hello, what nuts and Humpty Dump Nuts. I can't do something with the Phoenix name because it would be perilously close to the C word, so I'm not going to do that.
Oh.
It's What Chaos on Thursday, April 11th, U.S. I am DJ. That is Pete. That is Sean. We've got a lot of Coyotes merch going on right now. We also have a ceremonially stall for the first time in the history of this show because the Coyotes, don't want to say are dead, but the vibes are dead, and it's very sad. Yesterday, after the show ended, we start to see the reports. We do the PHNX Coyotes show. Sarah Volley, Elliot Friedman, everybody, Craig Morgan, it all trickling in bit by bit. Peter,
yes,
the Coyotes, it seems, are bye-bye time.
Yeah, and I have very conflicting feelings on it because I've said, like, it seems like the clock is running out there, and you only get so many chances, but I do feel bad, and I do have some outstanding questions as to why it's happening right now and why it's like seemingly picked up so much steam in the past week or so. And we'll have Craig Morgan on in just a bit to talk to him, and probably the most plugged in person of the Arizona Coyotes that exists on the planet. So hopefully it'll be a good discussion with Craig and maybe have some questions answered that I still have.
So the bullet points are that the Coyotes are nearing a deal to relocate to Salt Lake City, and Sean made a lovely full screen that you could see right there. It could happen as soon as April 18th. The owner of the Coyotes, Alex Morello, would receive $1 billion to sell the team to the NHL, and the NHL would, what would they do, Pete?
They would flip it.
They'd flip the team. They would flip the team to the Jazz owner, Ryan Smith, for $1.2 billion. Then the NHL could potentially offer Morello a 5-year window to build an NHL arena and get an expansion franchise. If you heard the show yesterday, you heard us discuss this June 27th auction that was going to be happening for a plot of land where Morello intended to build a 17,000-seat arena. There was talk, some from Frank Saravalli, some from other reporters, maybe the NHL would need to have an answer on what was going on sooner than April 27th or June 27th. So maybe they end up moving the team. And it all seemed to happen very quickly, and we will talk to Craig in just a minute. It seemed, at least to me, my read on this is it came down to the NHL didn't want them in Mullet Arena for another second.
100%. And that's my big question is, like, why all of a sudden was Mullet Arena untenable for the NHL? And was it just because, like, the exciting new girl arrived to school and was like, I've got some interest in that guy? And, like, Ryan Smith seemingly moved this process forward. At least that's what it looks like from the outside. I don't necessarily feel bad for the Coyotes as the organization. I feel bad for the fans, the employees,
O.J. Simpson's family.
O.J. Simpson's family, the people that cover the Coyotes, because even if you get the team back in 5 years, Sean pointed this out yesterday, even if you get the team back in 5 years, Coyotes fans have put up with so much bullshit and been kicked in the nuts so many fucking times and just bought in and continue to buy in on this rebuild and taken their lumps for the sake of the light at the end of the tunnel. And now the light at the end of the tunnel is being ripped away from them. And what happens in 5 years when they get the team under Morello back? You starting from scratch again, and you're probably putting up with some bullshit right off the jump.
I think the best point that Sean made about this yesterday is, so Utah's going to have Josh Doan? That's so fucking lame. I will say, if you're a Coyotes fan, and maybe it's a little inconsiderate, the Coyotes famously have never sent us the Sean Dursey Desert Night jersey that we requested. Is it rude or understandable to follow up right now and just be like, hey, while this is going on,
while you're packing
toss
your
it.
stuff.
Yeah, like, could you toss it in the mail?
You're
It's a
not gonna
little insensitive, but they're not going to be making these jerseys anymore. Like, if you want a Josh Doan Coyotes jersey, get it now, because that's going to be fucking sick. If he ends up being a good player.
This one that doesn't have a name on it. Maybe I'll just get a Josh Doan.
Connor Ingram? There's
Josh Doan.
I mean, Connor Ingram had a good night last night. It was fantastic. Sean, we haven't heard from you. Your thoughts?
I mean, nothing that
He's
hasn't been
choked up
said
already.
a million times. Yeah, I'm fighting back tears. Nothing that hasn't been said a million times. It's obviously crazy unfortunate, and there's a lot of questions that I don't know that we're going to get the answers to ever, if anytime soon. But it's sad. I made the point to you guys before that the best American goal scorer of all time doesn't exist without the Arizona Coyotes. I know for 100% I am not here without the Arizona Coyotes. So it's personal for a lot of people, and it definitely is a pretty tough pill to swallow, because the only people that are ultimately going to suffer for this are people that had nothing to do with why they're leaving.
Oh, and a nice little kick in the nuts too, on the way out for Coyotes and Coyotes fans, is that if Salt Lake City gets a team, their AHL team is going to be playing out of Mullet Arena.
Oh, gross.
That seems like just throwing an unnecessary amount of salt in the wound.
Okay, well, you mentioned the lovely people that cover the Coyotes. No one has done it better than our friend Craig Morgan. He joins us from PHNX. And Craig, you look great for how exhausted I imagine you should be, because not only have you been a prolific hockey reporter, for going on years now, you've also been a business reporter, and the shit has hit the fan in the last few days. So first of all, thank you for joining us. And second of all, I would like to start as vague as possible so you can go where you want with this. What happened?
Uh-oh.
Craig, it says you got yourself muted.
Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, you can tell I'm tired.
Cam. Craig knows how this goes.
Thank you for calling me lovely, first of all, DJ, because I've never been called lovely in my life. And I'd like to thank Carrie Lake for the filters that make me look lovely. But wow, what a week this has been. And you're right, guys. A lot of this felt like it came out of the blue. You know, we had Elliot on the show yesterday, and he said there was some steam earlier in the year about this. I remember he and Jeff Merrick mentioning it on a show, this whole notion of coming back in expansion within a few years. That was all floated way back, like right after the All-Star break, I think. And then it died down for a bit. And then it just, like right after this land auction got posted publicly and everybody thought, okay, the date's here. This is the date to focus on. Bam, within a couple days, suddenly everything was off and the Coyotes were moving to Salt Lake City. So it was bizarre. None of us expected it. Honestly, I had spoken to the team. Obviously, I don't rely completely on team sources. I got the understanding from Gary Bettman himself that they were going to allow Alex Morello to go to auction and see if he could get this done. So I know you want to talk about what changed. I have a lot of theories. Nobody's saying fully, but I can't help also wondering if the constant rhetoric from the NHLPA and the players played a role in this as well. I had someone tell me, like right after Tempe failed, it was time to move out of Mullet Arena, but that's not the impression that I got one day after the Tempe vote failed. So you have to start examining some of the factors that maybe pushed it to this point. Another one of those would be, was it really a 3-year construction timeline, or was it going to take 4 or 5 or 6? Who knows with construction timelines? I think with all that uncertainty and Alex Morello's track record, there was a lot of concern that they might be stuck at Mullet Arena for much longer than they were saying. That combination of things probably doomed them.
Is it crazy to think like this is going to be a kind of a tough situation for Salt Lake City right now too? Because we're talking about how quickly this has happened. Like Salt Lake City's arena that they'd be moving into isn't built for hockey. It needs major renovations to kind of fix some of those sight lines. And you're talking about a team that has to, if they plan on rebranding, if they plan on not just going with the Coyotes and the current uniforms that they have, they've got like a couple months to do some work before starting a new season.
Yeah, it's going to be a major challenge. There are a whole lot of things on the business side that I wonder about them being able to get done. But here's the other thing. You don't know what talks were occurring behind the scenes with Ryan Smith, so that maybe he was prepped for some of this stuff. But the arena itself, yeah, you're right. It's going to take major work. And even then, as the Athletic story said yesterday, Ian Mendez wrote this, it seats 11,000 comfortably for hockey. So It's not a great situation, guys. Let's get that on the table as well. Everybody's painting these glowing pictures of Salt Lake City, and I do think they're really excited about Ryan Smith as a potential owner for this franchise. Stable ownership really matters in this league. But as far as the facility, it is so far from ideal. It's crazy. That place is older than Footprint Center downtown Phoenix, and it is. I've been there. I covered the NBA for 10 years, and I've been in that arena. It is not a great venue. So it's not like they're stepping into a really good situation, and it's going to be another 10 years before they get an actual new arena.
I know that the NHL could say you had time and years to figure this out, but given how close they seemed to at least the starting point, getting to that June 27th, like whether it's Morello or the team, do they at all feel like cheated? Is obvious they should feel cheated, but like, do they feel kind of like shortchanged that they were doing the work and they were doing what they were supposed to do for this, and then at what seems like the last second, just as it was all about to get started, it gets taken away from them?
I'd love to be able to tell you that, but the ownership group is not speaking on the record. They haven't even addressed their own staff. So it's hard to know what they're thinking or if they knew this was coming all along. It does surprise me that the league didn't allow them to get to that June 27th date to see what would happen. And even in the Q&A that I did with Javier Gutierrez, the CEO and president, he said, we hope to have shovels in the ground second quarter 2025. So when you knew you were going to be at Mullet Arena for 4 seasons anyway, and they've only been there 2, why would you not want to wait to see if they actually did get shovels in the ground in the second quarter of 2025 and then say, okay, well, you got all kinds of issues, now we're pulling the plug? Why wouldn't you want to see that through? That part is unclear to me at this point.
Especially because the NHL seems very intent on having at least 33 organizations. Like if you're saying, in 5 years, the Coyotes can have their team back or whatever, if they have all their ducks in a row, you would think that, like, given the situation currently, you'd say, hey, Ryan Smith, you either get the Coyotes or you get an expansion franchise in 2025, 2026. And we're going to wait to see what path we're going down based off of the result of this land auction. And if it doesn't go the Coyotes' way, then you get them. If it does, then let's start the expansion process. Does that not make the most sense here?
That's what I thought all along, Pete. That literally, I was like, okay, look, he gets to the land auction and he loses it. Fine, just pull the plug at that point. Honestly, I thought they were going to pull the plug right after Tempe, and I was surprised when they didn't, but they were very clear that they were not pulling the plug on this market. So at that point, I thought, why wouldn't you let it get to auction and see how this plays out? And again, see if they can get shovels in the ground in 2025. That was the most logical progression of events for me. So I'm really curious to find out why that changed.
Do you think there was like a final straw event, a final straw thing that happened?
That'd be just pure speculation at this point. I haven't heard anything at this point. Maybe there was something else that tipped the scales. Maybe they were hearing from local officials that, look, this isn't going to be nearly as simple as they're making it out to be. There's no way this is a 3-year construction timeline. Do you really want to be at Mullet Arena for 6 years or 7 years? Then maybe that sort of thing. But again, I'm just speculating here. I don't have any basis for saying that at this point.
Yeah, the timeline is what confuses me the most about this, because I'd get if there was no plan and if they were saying, okay, you got to get to this point. They are at the point where they were going to do something and they were going to solve this. So if you're going to do this, do it, as you said, after the Tempe fell through. But to do it now, I think is just, it sucks for the fans, obviously. Do the players, want to play in Salt Lake City?
I got to be really careful with this, but the prevailing sentiment is no. The players don't want to play there and the families don't want to play there. And I'm not going to name anybody, but yeah, I've heard from a few.
Yeah,
what were their names?
Like sorry. That's awesome. It does seem like there's quite a bit of smoke there. Also, it's very funny that, like, with the Coyotes moving, people have been talking about the Coyotes moving for like 10 to 15 years. And it is very funny that now we're like, hey, this seems like it came out of nowhere, huh? There's a lot of irony in that.
But here's the thing, though. Like, wait 5 months when, like, in 5 months, they probably won't have a plan. Like, something will have gone wrong. The land auction will have not gone wrong. Like, this to me seems so, and maybe Sean has just gotten to me and I'm a Coyotes Bobo. Doesn't their current plan, or I guess their yesterday's plan, seem viable? You get the arena, You build or you get the land, you get the arena. Just with how hockey has gotten bigger in Arizona, I'd rather have it there than Salt Lake City, but maybe I'm being biased.
No, I think you're right. I mean, you look at the size of the market alone, right? Come on. It's obviously a better market than Salt Lake City if you have the right pieces in place. But in terms of whether this was a good plan, a viable plan, I don't know. But you could have sold this so easily to this market, to this fan base, if you waited till the land auction and things went sideways, right? At that point, look, what fan is going to say, okay, give us another shot? Like, seriously? We've been doing this for 15 years. Everybody was under the understanding that this was the last chance. And then we're going to pull the rug out from under people 2 months or maybe even 1 month before it goes to auction. That's curious to me.
Given like the timeline that we're talking about, 15 years where we've been going through this over and over and over again, there is a lot of history as to the Coyotes' failures. If you're looking at like the legacy of the Coyotes, we're a big fingerprints podcast. Who would you point your finger at or say had their fingerprints all over the Coyotes' failure in Arizona?
Well, you got to look at the ownership groups. It's very simple. They haven't had a stable ownership group. They haven't had good ownership groups. And you can trace this all the way back to Steve Ellman's decision to move the team west to Glendale in 2003. Richard Burke, who was co-owner at the time and was the guy that brought them here from Winnipeg, didn't want to do it. And he told them, I have him on the record, and I know he said this, it won't work in Glendale. Don't go out there. But Steve Ellman wanted the real estate deal. He wanted Westgate. He wasn't so concerned with the hockey team. So they went west. It was an utter disaster. They lost money, hand over fist. Eventually, then you know all the story after that. Jerry Moyes, he left Jerry Moyes holding the bag. He tries to put it in bankruptcy and move it to Hamilton with Jim Balsillie. The league stepped in, took over, and then it's just been a series of missteps by ownership groups, but also hamstrung by the fact that they're in Glendale and it's really hard to get a new arena built. They were in the wrong location. They couldn't get a new arena built, but so many ownership groups made mistakes along the way. And this is clearly one of them. I mean, you can look at the Katie Strang article that is well known at this point. You can look at the split with Glendale where they had to move out of Gila River Arena. You can look at the failed Tempe vote or having to play at Mullet Arena. There are a bunch of examples of mistakes that this ownership group has made, but they're not alone. Like you said, it is a long history of missteps.
So do you think that there should be reason for fans to buy into a future of the Coyotes in Arizona under Alex Morello?
No, and I don't think fans will support it. I wonder how serious the league is about that. I don't know if they truly believe that he's going to be the guy. They may think there's no way he's ever getting this done anyway. We'll see if it even goes to auction now, because I don't know what the Arizona State Land Department is thinking without, a team to play in that arena that they were going to build. The league may be just playing the odds here, and when it comes time to come back to Arizona, maybe you can find another group. But I do not think that the fan base will support the Morello ownership group as the expansion ownership group of the next concoction or version of the Coyotes, because of all that's happened right now. We were seeing it all over social media. We were hearing it at our Discord. People were texting and DMing. There is a lot of anger right now. So if the NHL thinks it can sell Coyotes fans on that idea, man, they better take the temperature. And honestly, even the idea, we'll be back in a few years. If the NHL thinks that's going to ease the pain, they're so wrong. Like, it almost would be better if they waited longer so that this could all pass, because there is so much anger. I'm not sure how much support there's going to be for an expansion franchise. You mentioned it, and Sean said it earlier. All the crap that they've been through, you finally get this rebuild going the right way. You have a hockey operations department that actually knows what it's doing and has the resources to execute it. You're 3 years into the process. You're starting to see some of the promise with Logan Cooley, Dylan Guenther, Josh Doan. And then you rip it out and say, hey, we'll be back in 5 years. And by the way, don't expect to win anytime before the mid-2030s. Wow. Sign me up, guys.
It also felt like an extra kick in the nuts. Like last night, Logan Cooley and Dylan Guenther had amazing nights. Just like, it's just what a kick in the fucking nuts when a team that absolutely does not need it right now.
Yeah, I mean, you just answered the question I was going to ask, which was your confidence level that they're back and that actually something happens there. It would just have to be with totally new faces and a totally new, like honestly just bring in some bozos who don't even know what they're doing versus the guy who's failed you?
Yeah, and you still don't have an arena, by the way, so you need to get that settled out. But I, this talk that they'll be back in 5 years, I guess the league could make that promise. What's the history of the expansion process? Who gets a team back that fast? Who has ever gotten a team back that fast? I know this is an attractive market. I get it. It's not Winnipeg, but are they really going to come back in 3 to 5 years? I have a hard time believing the process will be that.
The only reason that I would buy into that is Gary Bettman's love affair with Arizona and trying to make sure there is a team there that works. Just from a personal standpoint, you've been as tied to this team as anybody that I know. Like, is there any sense of like relief that finally it's fucking over and we can be done with it? Or is it like a heartbreak? Is it kind of, where do you stand right now?
I'm going to tag something to that. I said at the beginning that he's had to be a sports reporter. He's had to be a business reporter. This happens a lot with teams when their teams get caught cheating or anything goes to court or whatever. It's also personal for you because you're reporting on, like, not to be dark, like you're reporting on your livelihood as well.
Yeah. I've also been a government reporter, by the way. I'm on a first name basis with 3 city councils. It's the entire cocktail, Pete. It's all of that. Yeah, it's tough, right? It's a stupid little dream, but I wanted to cover the NHL from a very young age. I love my job. So seeing that die is tough. Seeing, the imminent death of our show, PHNX Coyotes, sucks. But we went and grabbed a beer last night, the 3 of us along with Shane Diefenbach, and we were talking about that other fact that you were mentioning. Yeah, there's a little bit of relief. It's exhausting covering this franchise. It is exhausting. There's never any time off. Once you get to the summer, it's known around here as arena season. So there are so many rumors. There's so many people taking shots at the Coyotes. There's a lot of bad information that gets passed about the Coyotes, but also, a lot of really good reporting that does not paint this franchise in a good light. So to finally be rid of it, yeah, I will admit there's a little bit of relief at being rid of this and getting this stress out of my life.
I'm trying to think of how this team could have been covered better and everything. Like, it just could, the way that your show has handled all of this while still having to follow an 82 game schedule for a team that is in a, let's say, up and down play. Like, they made runs during the season, but they were never expected to be a cup contender. You guys did yeoman's work, whatever the word is, just absolutely killed it. And if everybody here isn't subscribed to the PHNX podcast, I know that the words imminent death was just used, but I would still hammer that subscribe button because you and Petey and Leah do such an awesome job. You tolerate Pete and I coming on. You ask us trivia questions that we absolutely are not going to get. All 3 of you are the best, truly, Craig.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. And I'm absolutely loving what you guys are doing with the show. It helps that DP's there, so we have a special connection, but I'm really loving the show.
Thank you.
You call him DP?
We do.
That's cool.
That was Petey invented that nickname.
That's a dangerous game.
Yeah.
Trust me, it was a topic of conversation when the name was invented, but they started calling me it, and I took it in stride.
Sean, Mr. DP.
Yeah. You know what we call him? We call him Hookah Pekalukanen because he's always smoking a hookah over there.
I do see the Twitter handle, yes.
Yeah. Well, Craig, I got nothing left other than just praise and gratitude and appreciation for your reporting on all this and your willingness to come on with us, my friend.
No problem. Stay in touch, guys.
All right.
Of course.
Bye, Craig. That man is truly, he's been I hate to recommend, follow them now when
check out the Coyotes podcast over there. They're doing great work.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll talk about it in a second. Big night for the Coyotes.
I know.
Coyotes fucking rocked the house last night, but something that we haven't done any grab ass or chit chat. I don't think today will be a huge chit chat show, but this is a lightly grab assy topic. As we were sitting around the office monitoring all this, we were also monitoring the Coyotes' social media.
Oh, boy.
Where they were posting just normal tweets and they were getting roasted online. You have from their Twitter, we block out the noise. For our fans in our state, we push forward and give our all for the love of the game.
Like, using the term we block out the noise, like there's just like a light distraction going on, and not your team is fucking moving and
like,
relocating.
It's like getting launched into the sun because the sun is very loud and being like, we're blocking out the noise. I think you got other issues than the fucking noise that the sun is making.
I think there is a limit to something that you can describe as the noise.
Yeah,
and
like,
the imminent death of your team is not noise.
Block out the
they're
noise.
talking about it like there was a trade rumor that they don't like.
Right.
Which, like, yeah, there is a trade rumor. Get ready.
Yeah.
But Sean, if you want to throw that back up, the responses are what you'd think it would be. We got get ready to learn Mormon, buddy. Get ready to learn Utahese, buddy. Basically, a lot of them were get ready ones. This is my favorite one. Y'all moving soon. And get ready to learn Joseph Smith, buddy. Pete, you know who Joseph Smith is?
That is the cult leader, right?
More or less.
Yeah.
That's a good. I don't want to say that's a good way. That's a way to put it.
Is that the Scientology guy?
No,
No,
it's like the
that's L. Ron
father
Hubbard.
of Mormonism.
Oh,
he's
father
like
of
the guy
That
who
found all the stuff.
found the gold plates and the word. Got the word of God.
Not like
in
I
I don't
New
know
Jersey.
anything about Mormonism.
I guess
other
I was
than
gonna say, and not
the
like in
wives.
that he founded, but I guess he did like he was like the founder of it. But legitimately, the story is, I'm not making any judgment.
Make
like
your own.
he found gold plates, and that's how this.
In New
Truly,
Jersey.
the only thing I know about Mormonism is like mostly sex related and milk.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say like South Park
does
does a lot of stuff with them.
The soaking thing is pretty.
So that's
Big
sex
thing.
related.
Oh well, yeah, fair enough. I thought
Yeah.
you were talking more about the
Wives,
wives.
sex.
Yeah, I mean, we.
Yeah.
I know a lot about the Mormon Church. We can have a conversation off air if you want to learn.
Here's my favorite one though. They on Instagram they posted with the alert things, the sirens coming this weekend only. We're throwing our first ever Coyotes collection pop-up party, hosted at Common Hype. And there you can see there is a GIF from the Broadway smash, The Book of Mormon. There is a GIF of the Mormon guys in South Park. Somebody said, "Ain't nobody buying this shit right now. Stop it." We've got.
I do like. Sean has said multiple times on the show that like the Coyotes are like more obsessed with being a lifestyle brand than having a hockey team. And what more proof than them losing their hockey team and still committing to the lifestyle brand?
They died doing what they loved.
Yeah,
hawking sweaters that they're not fucking sending us.
They're about to be real valuable. Some real vintage apparel.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
I'm
what
glad
if
that I
Connor
own a
Ingram's
Coyotes
awesome?
jersey.
Get that Connor Ingram jersey.
Connor Ingram, realistically, chance he ends up being on the Canadian national team.
I will
considering the
say
state
I
of
have an
Canadian goalies.
old. I have like the real one of those, but it's got
The real one. This is as real as it gets. It was bought from Mullet Arena.
Sean knows what I'm talking about. I have like a real one, like from 19.
Yeah, like the OG Kachina.
Yeah, like whatever.
Where it had
This is as real as it gets, baby.
But the OG Kachina had that pattern like bigger and more
yeah,
prominent on the
yeah.
collar.
I do. I love that. Does well with the ad on it for whatever reason. I think that like the
I got it. I
patches,
like the one with the ad because I find it ironic that it's Gila River on the jersey patch, and
Okay.
Gila River was the building that they were kicked out
Yeah.
of.
It's like the casino.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully they got a good deal on the way out. Somebody had a Mike Pence gift that says, "I'll see you in Salt Lake City." Someone said it's a garage sale before they move, and then somebody said, "This seems like what you should be posting today." So
I do appreciate their attempts to tweet through it, but it
Do
is
it.
a horrible, horrible effort at tweeting through it. And we've made a lot of jokes about the Coyotes social media quote unquote team that's running the account this year. Odds that admin for the Coyotes goes fucking completely off the rails before all of this is through. Very, very high.
I mean, it depends on who's the admin at any given point.
I
But,
mean,
yeah.
we know who. When I say admin,
Well, yeah,
you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, I will say that the admin and the person that is dealing with all of this stuff is they're two different people. So there is a chance that those two are not on the same page either, which could
Of course.
could lead to some pretty interesting. Because like if the person that we all think is controlling the Twitter is just getting lied to by.
Truly, I think the hardest job in hockey is the Coyotes' official social media manager.
If there even is one at this point.
Right.
Which I'm not,
Because
I genuinely don't know.
Not only are you sifting through the bullshit of like people responding, being like, get the fuck out, you're moving, get ready to move, get ready to learn Utahese.
Yeah.
Then you also have somebody else in the organization just taking the keys away from you.
Well, yeah, I feel like it's got to be pretty tough. You open up the phone, and it's just a bunch of people responding to a tweet that you didn't send.
Right,
and meanwhile,
that
you're
sucks.
like looking for houses.
And now that person probably has to look for a new job too. And,
Exactly,
and
that's
then
what I'm
people are gonna be looking at the resume and be like, oh, you were running the Arizona Coyotes account?
Nope, they're not going to be looking at the resume. They're going to be looking at the numbers. They're going to be like, holy shit, you got insane engagement. It seems like you are great at social media. I don't know what was going on with that account you were running, but excellent job. The Coyotes have, this is so sad, 3 games left. You know that?
How many games at home?
1 more, the final game of the season against the Edmonton Oilers.
Damn.
And
Banger.
if you want to make these games even more special, I would hop on Prize Picks and just hammer everything you can, whether it's pro, anti, whatever. I'm going to be watching all these games, and I hope that everybody else is. So just follow along. You could daily fantasy sports it up by just picking more or less on various stat projections. You know how it works. We've explained it a million times. It is so easy. And if you want to play alongside some of Prize Picks' favorite players like Meek Mill and Sugar Sean O'Malley.
Woo-wee.
Who's
Sean
that?
O'Malley. You don't know who Sean O'Malley is?
I know who Sugar Mike O'Malley
I know
is.
I know who Mike O'Malley is.
Sugar
Do you
Sean
know who
O'Malley.
Mike O'Malley is?
The
Host
name
of
is
Global Guts.
Global Guts.
Oh no, I didn't.
Probably don't know who Mo
You
is
don't know about
either.
the aggro crag?
Dude, all of this, you could be talking a different language.
What?
You're kind of fucking with my
Speaking
head.
Mormonese to
Dude,
you
yeah.
right
the
now.
Salt Lake aggro crags would go hard.
That'd be amazing.
Sean O'Malley is currently one of the best fighters in the UFC. Also an Arizona native, very famous for having colorful hair.
Yeah, but is he Armenian?
No, he's Irish.
You know where you can find him?
On Prize Picks?
In the community plays tab under the promos tab of the app. You could view
did he-
entries.
Did he body somebody? Did he like tap somebody else into submission in that communities tab? Because I haven't heard a certain name.
Oh, Andrew Schultz?
Yeah.
Did
Sugar Sean O'Malley
let's discuss
fucking
whether
beat the
Sugar
shit out
Sean
of-
O'Malley murdered comedian Andrew Schultz for this ad read?
He could if he wanted to. He's a very terrifying man. He's one of like best hands in UFC, arguably.
So then maybe maybe you could check out what Meek Mill is doing on there instead. Or I don't know. It's not like you have to have contact with.
Get on Prize Picks or Sugar Sean O'Malley will kill you.
Is that a good ad read, Sean?
I feel like for legal reasons, we should say that is a joke. But also, I guess I can't guarantee. Sean O'Malley he's a crazy man. You never know what he's going to do.
I don't think this is the day to speculate on whether a famous athlete will kill somebody.
I would argue that this is the day.
Yeah, it's true.
That's very fair. So go to prizepicks.com/whatchaos and use code whatchaos for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/whatchaos and use code whatchaos. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. I will tell you, people love our Prize Picks reads. I've been told that they've signed up because of What Chaos. I'd like to see what kind of numbers back that up. I bet it's incredible. We're numbers guys. Let us know. Tell us when you've signed up,
and tweet us your like daily selections. Maybe we'll tell you.
Yeah, jump in the and see.
Famously, I can't think for myself.
Yes.
So
if Frank Saravalli is betting,
Frank Saravalli's not on Prize Picks, so I need you to tell me how to think and how to bet.
We got a huge UFC card this weekend, so Sean O'Malley is going to be locked in.
I think it sounds like Sean DePaz is going to be locked in.
I'm a huge UFC guy.
I know.
Yeah.
You know why?
Very locked in.
Because UFC is a sport, and you like every sport.
That's true.
I do. I will watch anything.
We also have
golf.
a super chat.
We do.
The love of your life says, "If you Winnipeg, best city in the world, baby." That's confusing. "FU Winnipeg, best city in the world." Like
I think it's
FU,
FU. Winnipeg is the best city in the world.
Because there was a shot taken. The love of your life is my kind of guy.
Love of your life is a Canadians fan, though, right?
Yeah,
because
but they're also
they had the super chat yesterday about Slavkovsky.
Yeah,
and they were very critical of the way that you read the super chat.
Sounds like they're a tennis fan. Love is a tennis term.
They are at least have made it appear to be a black hockey fan, which I appreciate. They've said many nice things about me throughout the chat, so I appreciate the love of your life. And also, if I was Canadian, I feel like I would ride heavy for irrelevant Canadian cities.
Okay. That's pretty cool.
Fair.
I'll give you that. The chat also, it seemed that there was a troublemaker, but Sean cleaned it up.
I did.
That's our guy.
Yeah. Cleaning the streets.
Yeah.
And if you want to clean
Tough on
the
crime.
streets below the belt, I got a sponsor that will be right up your alley. Manscaped. And this is a big month for Manscaped and for their efforts because, unfortunately, one man every hour, every day is diagnosed with testicular cancer. In fact, testicular cancer is the most common form of cancer amongst men 15 to 35. And April is National Testicular Cancer Awareness Month. So our friends over at Manscaped have partnered with the Testicular Cancer Society to help spread awareness for men's health and early cancer detection. As part of that effort, you can visit manscaped.com/TCS to learn how to check yourself for early signs of cancer. And as always, you can use the promo code WhatChaos for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. We're huge fans of Manscaped. They sent us beautiful care packages that feature the Lawnmower 5.0, which is not only a tremendous item for personal grooming, it's a tremendous item for technology.
You know what's great about the lawnmower? I like its bag, its case. It has the most.
The case is great.
It has the most. What would it be? Not discreet, covert. What would hidden from plain sight? Where there's
non-conspicuous.
I've been cutting back on coffee, so maybe discreet. That
but
that
discreet
would work.
has negative
Mischievous.
connotations.
It's up to something.
Yeah.
No, it's got we'll say concealed. It's got the best concealed zipper I've ever seen in my life. When that thing is closed, you're like, how could you open it? Oh, wow. That zipper, it just blends in so well. It moves well. It no matter how you pack the bag, even if it's going to squeeze, it's got just like a very nice soft case that's protective. And when you want to hammer those various clip-on things, additions, it works. I'll tell you what, I was going nuts with the light recently because it's got 3 different light settings.
DJ just turning off the lights and using the
Could if you want.
LEDs on
You
the
want to save some
lawnmower.
electricity, charge that thing up,
Well,
toss the lights down, light time.
it's cool that you appreciate their bag because they appreciate your bag and they take care of your bag. So I hope you take care of their bag as well.
Like ball bag?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
That's
Dung
a
bag?
ball sack joke, yes.
Yeah.
So in addition to providing the right tools and solutions for comfortable and easy grooming, Manscaped is committed to raising awareness and giving support for fighters, survivors, and families impacted by testicular cancer. That's why they will be donating $50,000 to the Testicular Cancer Society. Help save lives and balls by going to manscaped.com/TCS and sharing their funny educational check yourself video. 20% off and free shipping with code WhatChaos, because as a famous American philosopher once said, take care of your mentals, your balls, and your chickens.
Humping my penis.
Nice. Good work.
As a UFC fighter once said famously, my balls is hot.
A UFC
said that?
fighter said that?
Yeah.
Is that Paul Jackson?
No, it was Derek Lewis, the Black Beast. He won a fight, and then he took his pants off in the middle of the ring. And Joe Rogan was like, why'd you take your pants off? And he was like, my balls is hot.
Nice.
Care about your balls, just like Manscaped.
Got to ask the question now. I feel like we have sensitively covered the Coyotes and their current state, but there is no debate that the Coyotes are the most embarrassing and poorly run franchise in all of the National Hockey League. They will get a clean slate if they move to Salt Lake City and change ownership. So that begs the question, who takes over and becomes the most embarrassing and kind of depressing franchise in the National Hockey League?
This is a franchise and a roster, famously, that I love. It has to be the Columbus Blue Jackets, just because they have not... since doing something incredible, I'm going to sing the praise of the Blue Jackets because I like this conversation, but I don't think that there is one, oh my God, disgusting, what is wrong with them? Like the way that honestly people used to talk about the Oilers. Like that, I don't think that there is a franchise that is that level of low and defeated and lost right now. But given the calendar year the Blue Jackets have had, and given that since doing the incredible thing they did against the Lightning in 2019, it has mostly been kind of crashing into walls. I think the answer is the Blue Jackets, but I say that with all the love in my heart for the Blue Jackets and riding for them and saying in a couple of years, I think they're going to be really good.
Yeah, it's hard to say that it's recency bias with the Blue Jackets because they have the lowest winning percentage in all of American professional sports, like the big four sports leagues. And they definitely don't have a rich history. So I definitely think there's a case to be made there. But I also look at like the Blue Jackets did have one of like the biggest playoff upsets in NHL history by knocking out the Lightning in 4 games a handful of years ago. So it's not like there isn't any team success there. It's kind of a lack of direction, but their future is bright and they've got a good market. Like their building is great, despite the fact that they haven't had many good teams. Their fan base is incredible. I really like the city of Columbus as a hockey market. So I think that the Blue Jackets aren't necessarily like the clear cut. I would throw the Sabres into the ring, and I know that they've got a lot of talent right now, and they're one of those teams that's kind of waiting to turn the corner too. But they've got the longest playoff drought. We saw an amazing stat this week that literally every team in the entire NHL, the other 31 organizations, have played double-digit playoff games since the Sabres last made the playoffs. And that's crazy because the Seattle Kraken are like 2 years old.
Yeah, shout out the Kraken. That's the biggest takeaway there.
That's crazy, but double-digit playoff games since the last time the Sabres made the playoffs. And it's not just the playoff drought thing. It's, I think, like their building is a little old. The vibes around Buffalo are tough. The Jack Eichel thing really flamed out. You've got Leafs fans taking over that building being empty, a real like hatred towards ownership. I think like the general vibes combined with the playoff drought of the Sabres make them probably the lowest on the totem pole in my mind.
Here's the Sabres' biggest problem in my mind. They are at risk of being the team that is middling and just out of the playoffs for 100 years in a row. Because there have been teams...
No man's land.
Yes, exactly. And that's such a shitty, horrible place to be if you're in the NHL.
But I don't know if I would put them there just because they have so much untapped potential on that roster. Like it's not like they're middling and they're hanging around because they're incapable of putting together a really good roster. I think that a lot of their problems get fixed if you get better / more leadership. And that is on the roster, that's behind the bench. This Sabres team, I think, is relatively easily fixable.
Sabres need to trade for Nick Foligno.
They
could use
a Nick Foligno type.
You know what's awesome about Nick Foligno, by the way? He had fucking monster years. I think that people see Nick Foligno now as like the veteran and the leader and the old guy and everything. He was like one of the best players in the NHL.
You know who would be fucking cool in Buffalo?
Give it to me.
Pending free agent. Steven Stamkos.
Oh, yeah. And it's like you get to do Toronto without having to go to Toronto?
Exactly. Like that was the big thing. Stamkos from Toronto. That's as close as you can get without playing for the Maple Leafs.
Red Wings?
No. Buffalo's closer to Toronto.
Buffalo?
They're literally on
Buffalo's
other sides of the waterfall.
Yeah.
So, like, Stamkos to Buffalo would be very cool. I think it's probably more likely he goes to Chicago or something like that. But would be cool. Another team that I would throw into that ring, too, is the Ottawa Senators.
Yeah, Senators are, but, like, I don't want to say, like, nobody cares about the Senators, but they don't have, like, people, they aren't as top of mind for a lot of North American sports fans. So, like, each team has things that put them in the conversation, and the Senators are at risk of being unexciting for a very long time.
There aren't a lot of jokes for the Senators. Like
Yeah.
there were at
Cab
one point in
jokes or
time.
Uber jokes.
Yeah, like ownership. Now that it's in Andlauer's hands, I think it's not a fully clean slate, but I think there are fewer jokes because there's more unknown for the future.
I took a peek at the chat and someone threw out the Sharks. A lot of people did. I thought about the Sharks for a second, and I say no because they haven't really had the chance yet to build what they're trying to build. Somebody mentioned like the Hurdle trade should cement it. The Hurdle trade is good.
Yeah,
they should have done the Hurdle trade. It's crazy. It was shocking. You ask yourself, like, do you really want to be retaining money for that long? But a GM trading away a huge ass contract that he didn't sign, I actually think is good business.
The fact that they've been able to trade both Erik Karlsson and Tomas Hertl is kind of wild, but I think there are two sides of that conversation where it's like you shouldn't have given Tomas Hertl that bag
but
to
they
begin with.
Yeah.
Well, not the current leadership, but if we're having this conversation, it's the big picture. But like the Sharks also had an incredible roster and I know they didn't win, but they were a Western Conference powerhouse for a long time. And just because they're currently in a rebuild doesn't mean that they are embarrassing.
That's a perfect way of putting it. There are teams that are bad right now. That doesn't mean that they're like the team that you look at and say, oh God, when are they going to get out of it? But even with the Blue Jackets, I think that can turn quickly because they have a lot of good young players. They're going to be a team that I think with more leadership, no offense to Captain Boone Jenner and Zach Werenski and those guys, but I think you get a couple of more been there, done that guys, and the young players will follow suit. And that, like, I see futures for all the current rosters, except really the Senators. I'm kind of meh on the Senators to say they can do something. They can become something. And that includes the Sabres.
Yeah. And the important thing here is that none of these teams are even close to being in a tier that the Arizona Coyotes were in, because the Coyotes were completely in a league of their own in terms of their ineptitude, both on the ice and from an organizational standpoint. I hate to say it, but like the Coyotes are like a fucking disaster. Maybe one of the worst run organizations in all of sports, not just hockey.
My overall answer though is just that like I'm not too low on any franchise or team.
That's what I'm saying. There's a path out for all of these teams.
Well, the most important topic of the day is we owe last night's slate an apology because I was unfamiliar with your grade. Gave you an A-. Boy, it was incredible. Pacific moving and shaking going on. Oilers fucking pump, and I mean pump the Golden Knights without Connor McDavid. Zach Hyman scoring goals without Connor McDavid. Dylan Holloway saying, emergency, I just scored a goal. Hell yeah, I belong up here. It's just that this organization is too good. Their swag too strong.
You say that I can't think for myself without the help of Frank Saravalli or without like the leanings of Frank Saravalli. You can't think for yourself or form an opinion without the influence of the Edmonton Oilers, because last night's slate fucking blew. I turned on the Blackhawks Blues game, and like within 40 seconds, it was 4-0, and there was a half hour of real time separating the Blackhawks Blues game from the Oilers. Oilers Golden Knights.
Golden Knights, yes.
Golden Knights. There was a half hour of real time separating those two games, and it felt like an eternity because I just did not want to watch that Blackhawks game any longer.
I did not say you couldn't think for yourself. I was trying to get you, and you've since, look, it's worked. You've since gotten a lot better at saying like, fuck it, let's talk about a hypothetical that isn't something that's being reported. Like, it's not, I was trying to say it's not stupid to talk about something that isn't necessarily happening, because as we saw a few days later, Tomas Hertl got traded. So
that was never, I don't want to get back into this, but that was not my response. My response was, that's a bad trade.
Oh, okay. I remember it as being, I could be wrong. I remember it as being like, it's not going to happen. Why we're talking. And I was just saying, like, it doesn't need to be a reported story for us to discuss what a team should do.
No, you were starting to outline like your proposed trade, and then you got like two 2 parts into the trade, and I was like, this is
Oh
a bad
no,
trade.
that was a different one. No, that was with an Oilers trade. That was with a Oilers, Henrique, and Frank Vetrano trade, which
that's
I
true.
did famously admit was a bad trade. I agreed with you on that, but I wasn't saying you don't think for yourself. I was saying,
Yeah, but now that's become
come
the
in. The
narrative.
water is fine. Yeah, well, I mean, not to say
I'm
whose
doing my
fault
own
is that.
research.
Yeah, if you, I don't know, like if you default to fuck, I'm the guy that like if Frank Saravalli, it wasn't what I was saying. It's not what I think of you. I wouldn't. I would never say such a thing. Not only did the Oilers get 2 points, the Canucks fell to the Coyotes in overtime. Wild overtime, craziest overtime. Felt like it lasted a million years because there was a penalty, there was a timeout, there was a penalty shot that Connor Ingram stopped. Madness, 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 and then Logan Cooley ends up winning it in overtime.
Yeah, that was a tough game to get through for me. Number one, because it was a bad game. Both teams did not play well. The Canucks looked really bad. They were in the box for like almost that like entire game. It was taking a lot of penalties. But I put a fresh $100 bill on the Canucks to win that game last night because I looked at them. I was like, Canucks so much better than the Coyotes. Coyotes been through a hell of a day. Admin tweeting through it, being like, "Hey, we still play for our city. Block out the noise." I was like, "There's no way they're winning this game." Turns out, shout out to the Coyotes for gutting out a pretty gritty win.
Yeah, an emotional win, a gritty win. I loved it. As a result of it, the Oilers gain a point and a regulation and overtime win on the Canucks. They're now 4 points out of first place with 2 games in hand and a game against the Canucks on Saturday. The Oilers have 5 games remaining, 2 against the Coyotes, 1 against the Sharks. So their schedule that was so horrifying down the stretch becomes easy. Yeah, 2 against the Coyotes, 1 against the Sharks, 1 against the Canucks, and then 1 against the Avalanche. I won't defend my Oilers fandom here. I think the most interesting story in the West right now is that it's not like the Avalanche are going to go and grab the number 1 seed in the Central. Like that's spoken for. We don't know how all this seeding is going to shake up. I know that you're not a seedings guy, but the idea of the Canucks holding first place all year long and then seeding it to a team that was in last place like 2 weeks ago is very interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more interested in like who a team, whether that would be bad for the Canucks or not. Like if you're the Canucks and you end up getting the Kings instead of the Golden Knights or you know one of those teams, like is that bad for you? I don't necessarily believe that it is.
No, I would rather like wild card teams ranked, or I'll say teams that good teams in the West could play ranked. I don't want to play the Golden Knights no matter what. I can tolerate playing the Kings. I feel a little scared of the Predators, but I think the Predators and Kings are beatable teams for the Oilers in the first round or the Stars in the first round.
There has been a lot of talk recently I've heard about, like, you know, are the Golden Knights actually good?
It's me asking you that the last like 3 days.
But I mean, like I've seen like Biz was talking about it as well. Like, you know, are we actually buying into this team, or are we kind of laying back on, well, this is what this team has been for like a last year and things like that. So, you know, are we formulating a more generic opinion on the Golden Knights based off of like the brand than the way that they've played this year?
They have. I've said all week they haven't played well this year. They're like a negative 29 goal differential or something like that.
Yeah, but
no,
I think,
I'm thinking of the teams in the
no,
East. But they're the second lowest goal differential of the playoff
17.
teams.
They're plus 17, but it's one of those things where it's like, are you evaluating them based off of the season that they've had, or are you evaluating them with the expectation that they're going to be a different team once the playoffs start?
No, they're going to have Alex Pietrangelo. They're going to have Mark Stone. Their roster is going to be so much better.
You're operating with the assumption that they're going to have Stone. I don't know if they're going to have Stone.
even if they don't have Stone
lacerated
for
spleen.
Yeah, even if they don't have Stone for the first round, I think I would favor them against the Canucks. I wouldn't necessarily. I would probably flip a coin with them and the Stars in the first round, just because it's tough to make a deep
would
run
take the
several
Stars.
years in a row, or multiple years in a row. But we're not asking them to make a deep run in the first round. We're just asking them to win a series, and I think that they would beat the Kings. I think that they would beat possibly the Oilers. I think that they would hang with the Stars, and they'd beat the Canucks. And the Canucks, by the way, I think could get beaten by the Kings or the Predators.
I mean, I think that a lot of those Western Conference matchups are going to be kind of a coin flip. I think it's going to be a lot of those teams are good, and I just have a really hard time wrapping my head around who the Golden Knights are right now.
Yeah. Here's a question. Is Rick Tocchet, who is currently the Jack Adams favorite, still deserving to win the Jack Adams
Yes.
if the Canucks, after being in first all season,
Yes.
don't win their division and
Yeah.
they're just like second or third in their...
Yeah, it's still like a 30+ point improvement from last year, and I know
30.
over 30+ point improvement, which is impressive. And he's unlocked players on that team that needed to be unlocked, that were not living up to the hype and the potential that they were under previous coaches. And like, I think that he still deserves a ton of credit for that. And I've been a skeptic of the Canucks for a bit, and even that 30+ point improvement thing, I weigh on a scale, because I look at who they were last year and I said, well, this is a talented roster that underachieved. So, you know, it probably wasn't the 83-point team that they were in the standings last year based off of their actual talent. But even still, it takes a good coach like Rick Tocchet to maximize the potential of a team, and he deserves credit for that.
I don't know where the report came from, but somebody said in the chat that there is a report that Mark Stone was playing golf yesterday, which you're going to say, oh, that's not hockey or whatever. But if he's up and about and doing stuff, the shit that people cover up in the playoffs at least makes me think, yeah, maybe he'll be back at some point.
Well, famously, you don't want to be golfing. That's like the antithesis of playoff hockey.
He's doing it before because he's not going to be golfing much. Yeah, he's getting all of his golf out of his system right now. I kind of agree, but I think that there's such an argument for Brunette and Carberry as well.
Well, Carberry's not going to get any real consideration if the Capitals don't make the playoffs.
They're in the playoffs right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. And I think John Tortorella has exited the conversation for the most part, I would imagine. I'm surprised that Brunette has not gotten more love in these discussions.
I agree. I think that the Predators, I don't say this. If you should accuse me of being in the bag for any team, it's the Predators, because I am financially committed to them winning the Stanley Cup. They're going to be a scary out. But again, every team you face in the West is like, oh, fuck, what is this? And then in the East, there's a lot more path talk for everybody. Let's get to a Slate Grade presented by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHAOS for $20 off your first purchase. Famously, there was just a 3-game slate last night. It was very good, but it was just a 3-game slate. 10 games tonight. 7 p.m. U.S. Capitals at Sabres. 7 p.m. U.S. Devils at Maple Leafs. 7 p.m. U.S. Senators at Lightning. 7 p.m. Blue Jackets at Panthers. 7 p.m. Flyers at Rangers. Asshole watch Flyers because that could have been a cool game. 7 p.m. Red Wings at Penguins. Big playoff implications there. That's going to be the game of the night. 7:30 p.m. Canadiens at Islanders. 8 p.m. Jets at Stars. 10 p.m. Sharks at Kraken. 10:30 p.m. Flames at Kings. The structure is fine. The slate is fucking horrible. That's a very bad slate. One real playoff implications game, and then one iron sharpens iron game, and that's kind of it.
Well, I mean, I kind of disagree. Capitals, Sabres, big game. Like, you look at like playoff teams, and yeah, sure, two playoff teams, but like the games where a team needs to win to kind of stay in the hunt, just as interesting as like those playoff type matchups.
I would agree at this point in the season, but what you want is two teams that you don't want two playoff teams. You want two teams that are really fighting for it. So like you want a Red Wings Penguins game. There's only one of those.
I will say Red Wings Penguins is an absolute must-watch.
That is a golden blue chip game. But then other than that, again, Devils, Maple Leafs, Senators, Lightning.
Yeah,
It's not a good slate.
I think that if you're looking at like pillars of this slate, you've got Red Wings Penguins at 7 p.m., which is great. Then an hour later, Jet Stars is absolutely worth tuning into. And then you've got a nice little treat at 10:30 with Flames Kings. I think Flames Kings can be a good game too.
I will say the last time the Sabres and Capitals played was like 2 weeks ago or whatever, and the Sabres beat the shit out of the Capitals. And now the Capitals really need to beat the Sabres. So that game could be pretty interesting.
A little bit of juice to the slate. I would not say that it stinks.
Oh, I would.
Oh, no.
I need better this time of year.
Famously, you thought last night's slate didn't stink.
Last night's slate was, I mean, I did think it stunk. I gave it an A-.
But then you corrected that today.
No, it ended up being exciting.
No, it didn't.
Truly.
It had 3 games, 2 of which were horrible, and the third of which, like, horrible in terms of a blowout.
Yeah.
Like, not competitive. And then the third one was just a bad game. It was a bad night to watch hockey last night.
There wasn't a lot of hockey to watch. I think that for a 3-gamer, it ended up not being horrible. I'm giving this one an A-. Let's end with something fun. This has been a grab ass free show, which has been
we do have a super
disappointing.
chat.
You got a super chat? What is it?
From Wode, W-O-D zombie. I don't know. Which of the bottom teams do you think will have the biggest leap forward next season?
Anaheim
$4.99
Ducks.
super chat.
Anaheim Ducks.
I wouldn't say the Ducks. Think the
Chicago Blackhawks.
I mean, Salt Lake City, whatever, is going to go from not existing to existing. So,
are we talking about like the biggest leap forward in terms of points from year to year? Because that becomes kind of a different question. I think like the Ducks and Blackhawks will have significantly more points next year based off of how bad they were this year. But in terms of like taking the next step, I'll tell you what, call me a fool. The next step again next year. I was burned this year. I think with a coaching change and maybe a little bit of veteran reinforcement to that roster, I believe in the Buffalo Sabres again.
Sabres are a lot better than their cellar-dwelling peers. They are better than the Canadians, the Blue Jackets, the Senators. I'd argue they were better than the Devils this year. I could see them doing that. And that honestly, that was my take this year.
The Devils are also one of those teams that, like, the Devils are going to have a huge fucking jump next year because the Devils had so many things go wrong for them this year that like they shot themselves in the foot way too many times. And I think goaltending will be better next year. Coaching should be better next year. They still got a ton of talent. The Devils will be back in the conversation next year as one of the East's best teams.
Let's spin the wheel. We got to end this with some juice. Give us some juice, Sean. Let's do a group wheel again. The group wheel was good yesterday.
I did like the group wheel.
Spin it right now.
It's a nice little collaborative effort.
Yeah.
For the wheel.
Let's spin the wheel.
Oh,
let's give it a spin. Let's just
see. PK Subban was on the Pat McAfee show.
Ooh, was he standing up?
He said the Dallas Stars can win the Stanley Cup.
Ooh,
it's bad news for the Stars. The Calgary Flames.
All right, we've got the Calgary Flames. Let me greenie this. I could just make it about the Battle of Alberta, but I'm not going to do that. The Calgary Flames are currently. Let me get it.
We have thoughts on the Calgary Flames, clearly.
They are 6th in the Pacific Division. Where will they finish next season?
I think they're kind of one of those no man's land teams where they're never going to be bad enough that it's like, okay, this team is going to position themselves to rebuild, but I also don't think they're going to be good enough to like enter into the conversation as a true contender.
Keeping Markstrom caught my eye. They need to build some more things around there. I think that they're probably going to be like 5th or 6th again. They're not in a great place right now. Sean, what are your thoughts on the Calgary Flames?
They'll play in Calgary next year, so that's pretty nice. I don't know. I've gotten hit with a big wave of why the fuck do I even do this? Like sports. All my teams suck and disappoint me.
It has been a tough year for you. I will say that. The Buffalo Bills, disappointing, and then had a very devastating offseason. The Arizona Coyotes literally are going to cease to exist. and the Buffalo Sabres, one of the bigger disappointments in the NHL.
At least the one big market team I root for is spending a lot of money and trying to be really competitive.
That's right, the Boston Red Sox, baby.
Yes.
The tickets are affordable, though.
Yeah.
Sean's gonna go. We're gonna make him happy. All right. We've got an insane week next week. A lot of fun elements that you will see in short order. Enjoy the games tonight. We'll talk to you next week.
We all silly like the mayor.